Calling to order this Committee on Higher Education and Technology, Monday, March 20th, 2 p.m. This is a decision-making hearing. First on our agenda is Senate Bill 302 relating to taxation. This will temporarily reinstate the Technology Infrastructure Renovation Tax Credit. My recommendation with this bill, members, is to further defect the date to 6/30/3000. We won't be including any of the requested amendments from Charter Communications and Hawaiian Telecom because they were introduced so late in the process, and I think they would have substantive impact on the nature of this tax credit and the implications of this tax credit. So those changes require additional public scrutiny in both chambers. I am going to ask for a proviso in this bill, calling for a report from DOTAX analyzing the tax implications of the amendments that Charter Communications and Hawaiian Telecom requested. So we can use that for the basis for legislation next session, if that's appropriate. Are there any questions or concerns? Vice Chair for the vote.
Voting on SB 302 SD2, Chair's recommendation is to pass with amendments. Chair and Vice Chair vote aye. Representative Evslin?
Aye.
Representative LaChica?
Aye.
Representative Martin?
Aye.
Representative Martinez is excused. Representative Matayoshi?
Aye.
Representative Quinlan is excused. Representative Todd?
Aye.
Representative Woodson is excused, as is Representative Garcia. Oh, noting the presence of Representative Quinlan.
Aye.
Aye.
Chair, your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you. Thank you, members. Moving on to SB 478, which it has to do with reporting telecommunications and cable industry information reporting. We're going to acknowledge AARP's concern, but we will say that the new data provided to the FCC in a more granular form is also going to be accessible from the FCC. And will be helpful for us. So HRS 440J is no longer necessary. On this bill, we're gonna, I recommend we further defect the date to 6/30/3000 and remove Part 2, Section 4, because it unnecessarily removes previous privacy protections on the basis of which agreement to share this information was made. And we're gonna change the language back to HB 371 HD2. Members, any questions or concerns? Seeing none, Rep. Woodson has joined us. Vice Chair for the vote, please.
Thank you, Chair. Voting on SB 478 SD2, Chair's recommendation is to pass with amendments. Chair and Vice Chair vote aye, noting the excused absences of Representatives Martinez and Garcia. Members, are there any reservations or noes? Seeing none, Chair, your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, members. Next on SB 752 SD1, we're going to further defect the date to 6/30/3000. And make technical amendments to improve clarity, consistency, and style. I'd also like to note in the committee report the testimony of DAGs that libraries already provide the necessary infrastructure for this work, and to the committee report that public schools within a community schools model also offer potential sites for this type of access. Are there any questions or concerns? Seeing none, Vice Chair for the vote.
Voting on SB 752 SD1, Chair's recommendation is to pass with amendments. Chair and Vice Chair vote aye, noting the absence of Representative Garcia. Are there any reservations? Any noes? Chair, your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you. On SB 1317 relating to broadband, we're going to simply further defect the date to 6/30/3000 and make technical amendments to improve clarity, consistency, and style. Any questions or concerns? Seeing none, Vice Chair for the vote.
Voting on SB 1317 SD3. Chair's recommendation is to pass with amendments. Chair and Vice Chair vote aye, noting the excused absence of Representative Garcia. Are there any reservations or noes? Chair, your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, members. On Senate Bill 1478 SD1 relating to offensive cybersecurity, we're going to further defect the date to 6/30/3000, make technical amendments to improve clarity, consistency, and style, and we're going to clarify that the references to agency or agencies are intended to meet state and county agencies. And that's it. Any questions or concerns? Seeing none, Vice Chair for the vote.
Voting on SB 1478 SD1, Chair's recommendation is to pass with amendments. Chair and Vice Chair vote aye, noting the excused absence of Representative Garcia. Members, are there any reservations or noes? Seeing none, Chair, your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you. Members, on SB 1578 SD1, in light of the nature and amount of oppositional testimony that we received, I'm going to defer this measure. Moving on to SB 155 SD1, relating to the University of Hawaii. It's kind of a combination bill. We are going to further defect the date to 6/30/3000. We're going to, I recommend that we revert to the language of the companion bill, HB 844 HD1. So we'll be deleting part 1 of this measure, which established and appropriate funds for a network improvement community task force, because it overlaps with the work of tech, as described in the DOE testimony. In part 2, in section 6, we're going to restate that the purpose of the appropriation is to subsidize travel expenses and tuition for students to study abroad from UH Maui. The expending body should, though, be the University of Hawaii, not UH Maui, and we're going to request a report to the legislature prior to next session. Members, are there any questions or concerns? Seeing none, Vice Chair for the vote.
Voting on SB 155 SD1, Chair's recommendation is to pass with amendment. Chair and Vice Chair vote aye, noting the excused absence of Representative Garcia. Members, are there any reservations or noes? Seeing none, Chair, your recommendation is adopted.
Members, on SB 281, which is related to the college savings program, I wanted to thank the advocates for their hard work on this measure, and there are some changes that we want to note, or changes that I'm recommending. So I recommend that we limit the scope of this measure to the Hawaii College Savings Program established under HRS Chapter 256, so the Hawaii 529 plan, that's the scope. That we amend Section 235 to provide that qualified taxpayer means an individual taxpayer or married couple filing separate returns whose income level qualifies to contribute to a Roth IRA. So we're doing that so that the wealthiest are not using this as a place to protect their funds from taxation. And that each member of the married couple filing a joint return, head of household, or surviving spouse qualifying to contribute to a Roth IRA under the IRS code for 408A-C3. We're also clarifying that the tax deduction for single filers shall be $4,000 and $8,000 for joint filers, and that there's a definition of non-qualified withdrawals to be added, which says that contributions to a college savings program that have been deducted from the qualified taxpayer's Hawaii adjusted gross income for prior taxable years shall be subject to recapture and penalties pursuant to Section 529C6 of the Internal Revenue Code of 1986 as amended, or successor legislation if the qualified taxpayer makes a subsequent non-qualified withdrawal from the college savings program that results in an additional tax penalty under said Section 529C6 or of the Internal Revenue Code of 1986. So essentially what we're trying to do is make sure we're putting up some guardrails around this program so that it serves its intended purpose. We're going to change the name of the program from Hawaii College Savings Program to Hawaii College and Able Savings Program. We're also going to amend Chapter 256 to reflect this change as a conforming amendment. Further defect the date to 6/30/3000 and make technical amendments to improve clarity, consistency, and style. Any questions or concerns? Seeing none, Vice Chair for the vote.
Voting on SB 281 SD2, Chair's recommendation is to pass with many amendments. Chair and Vice Chair vote aye. Noting the excused absence of Representative Garcia, members, are there any reservations or noes? Chair, your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, members. Senate Bill 391, relating to the University of Hawaii Community College Workforce Training, we're just going to recommend that we defect the date to 6/30/3000. Any questions or concerns? Seeing none, Vice Chair for the vote.
Voting on SB 391 SD2, Chair's recommendation is to pass with amendments. Chair and Vice Chair vote aye. Noting the excused absence of Representative Garcia, members, are there any reservations or noes? Seeing none, Chair, your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you so much. And on the final bill, SB 500 SD1, I only recommend that we further defect the date to 6/30/3000. Any questions or concerns? Vice Chair for the vote.
Voting on SB 500 SD1, Chair's recommendation is to pass with amendments. Chair and Vice Chair vote aye, noting the absence of Representative Garcia. Members, are there any reservations or noes? Seeing none, Chair, your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you. Thank you so much, members. We're here. It's so nice. It's a party. We're adjourned.